Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a really profound framework for personal transformation, drawing directly from Thomas Alethea's work. Now look, I know what you might be thinking. When most people hear the 12 steps, they immediately think of addiction recovery, right? But today we're actually putting a completely different lens on this. We're going to see how these steps serve as a truly universal daily toolkit for personal growth. And what's honestly just fascinating here is how perfectly this entire process maps right onto the epic structure of the hero's journey.
So let me ask you something. Why do we keep tripping over the exact same obstacles? Seriously, think about this for a second. Have you ever felt this sort of quiet, persistent frustration just humming in the background of your life? Like you're caught in this exhausting loop of self-sabotaging patterns? Maybe for you it manifests as a paralyzing fear of failure, or just a restless search for meaning. Or maybe it's relationship struggles that literally just keep reappearing no matter who you happen to be dating. Look, if you've felt this, you are absolutely not broken, and you are for sure not alone. This is a deeply, deeply universal human experience.
Okay, let's dive into this. The author points out that so many of us try to quiet that chaotic ache inside by, chasing endless distractions. We scroll endlessly through our phones, or we seek out these temporary highs. It's kind of like walking down the exact same bumpy road, just wearing different pairs of shoes. But you're always ending up on that familiar downward spiral of dissatisfaction. Henry David Thoreau actually hit the nail on the head when he wrote, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation." But instead of just trying to escape or numb out that desperation, what if we used a highly specific, actionable toolkit to finally work through it?
To do exactly that, we're going to follow a clear roadmap. We'll start with number 1, the perennial struggle. Then we're going to map the 12 steps right onto the hero's journey. Number 2, the departure, covering steps 1 through 3. Number 3, the challenge, taking us through steps 4 through 7. Number 4, the atonement, with steps 8 and 9. And finally, number 5, the return, covering steps 10 through 12.
Starting with Part 1, the perennial struggle, recognizing the invisible weight.
Before we can embark on this epic journey, we have to define the core problem. The author calls this the perennial struggle. It's that deep, lifelong tension and inner conflict within every human that causes repeating patterns of dissatisfaction. Basically, it's the gap between who we are right now and who we deeply want to be. The source material uses this brilliant analogy. Imagine literally walking straight into a glass door because you firmly believed it was open. Ouch, right? We all build these rigid boxes of beliefs, usually to protect our egos or shield ourselves from past pain. But when our protective box doesn't actually match the truth of reality, well, we end up crashing and getting hurt. That lingering pain of our internal perceptions violently clashing with reality, that is the perennial struggle.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Part 2, the departure, steps 1 through 3, leaving your comfort zone.
To stop crashing into that glass door, we have to officially begin our journey. The departure covers steps 1, 2, and 3. First, we admit that our current way of doing things, relying strictly on our own sheer willpower, it just isn't working, and that our life in this specific area has become completely unmanageable. Second, we drop the ego and become open to a higher power. And hey, for a broader context here, this simply means looking for solutions outside of your own rigid box of beliefs. It's just accepting that actually, you don't have all the answers. And third, we make the conscious decision to actively rely on that outside guidance, whatever it might be for you.
Let's ground these abstract concepts into an everyday reality. Picture this scenario. You are trapped in a cycle of severe, chronic procrastination at work or at school. You absolutely know the deadline is looming, the anxiety is mounting, it's causing you immense stress, it's messing with your sleep, but you just cannot seem to break the habit of putting things off until the absolute last agonizing minute. We've all been there, right?
Under your old way of doing things, you'd likely just beat yourself up. You'd criticize your lack of discipline, call yourself lazy, and literally try to force yourself to work harder through sheer willpower alone, which, let's be real, usually just leads to more shame and eventual burnout. But the 12-step reaction? You embrace step 1 by admitting you are completely powerless over this specific behavior. You just drop the rope. Surrendering here isn't a weakness, it's a strategic pivot. You look outward for a new framework, maybe a new productivity method, or a mentor, relying on a process that is greater than your own stubbornness to guide you forward.
Which brings us to Part 3, the challenge, steps 4 through 7, confronting the inner demons.
Once we've departed our old way of thinking, we enter the hardest part of the hero's journey. Step 4 requires us to do some really intense detective work. We take a searching and fearless personal inventory to find the actual root causes of our thoughts and feelings. We aren't just wallowing in guilt here, we're objectively investigating why we act the way we do.
Then comes a massive shift. We move from detective work into incredible vulnerability with steps 5, 6, and 7. This is where we admit exactly what we found to ourselves and to another human being. We become truly ready to let go of these protective but harmful habits, and we humbly ask for the strength to actually change.
Consider a situation where you repeatedly clash with your partner over household chores. It's this constant, toxic friction. The silent treatment stretches for days, the lingering tension completely ruins your evenings together, and it feels like you're having the exact same fight over the dishes week after week after week.
And this brilliantly illustrates how differently this can be handled. The old reaction is to harbor deep resentment, blame them entirely for the mess, and stubbornly refuse to budge. But utilizing step 4, the 12-step reaction, forces you to take an inventory of your part in the conflict. Why does that messy kitchen trigger you so deeply? Is it really just about the dishes? Or is it maybe an underlying need for control? Maybe it's a feeling of being unappreciated. You investigate your own ego and your own emotional triggers rather than just constantly attacking their behavior.
Next up is Part 4, the Atonement, Steps 8 and 9, Setting the Past Right. After confronting our inner demons, we transition into the healing phase of our journey. Steps 8 and 9 are entirely about cleaning up the wreckage of our past mistakes. Step 8 asks us to list the harm we've caused. And why do we do this before acting? Because getting everything out of your swirling head and onto paper removes its power over you. It clears away that dark, heavy baggage. Then, step 9 is where the rubber meets the road. We make direct amends, demonstrating sincere change through our actions, but with one absolutely crucial caveat. We only do so if it won't cause further harm to them or to others.
Let's look at a super relatable workplace scenario. Imagine you had a terrible morning. The pressure was immense, and you completely lost your temper, just yelling at a coworker in front of the whole team. The room goes dead silent, you walk away, and almost immediately, you feel that visceral, burning sensation of regret right in the pit of your stomach.
So, what's the old reaction? You'd probably avoid them in the break room for weeks, or maybe make defensive excuses in your head, like, well, if they had just done their job right, I wouldn't have had to yell. But the 12-step reaction utilizes the profound power of humility in step 9. You pull them aside, offer a direct, excuse-free apology, and simply ask how you can make it right. What's incredible here is that taking accountability actually elevates your respect in the workplace rather than diminishing it. It takes immense courage, but it actively mends the broken pieces of your soul and instantly repairs the team dynamic.
Finally, we reach Part 5, the Return, Steps 10 through 12, bringing the boon home.
So, the crucial point is that transformation isn't just a one-time event, it's a daily practice. Steps 10, 11, and 12 are our maintenance steps. We continue to take a daily inventory of our actions to catch ourselves before we spiral again. We stay connected to our higher power through reflection or meditation to keep that ego in check. And finally, we take our newly healed selves out into the world to actively make it a better place. These steps are the daily anchors that keep us from sliding right back into that old, unmanageability.
Let's look at one final scenario. Suppose you work in a highly stressful, chaotic environment. You're dealing with back-to-back meetings, a flood of endless urgent emails, impossibly tight deadlines. How do you actually maintain your emotional balance and prevent that perennial struggle from creeping right back in to ruin your peace?
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the technique the author provides for your daily Step 10 maintenance. It's called RADAR: reflect, describe, and respond. At the end of an incredibly stressful day, you just pause to reflect on your actions, thoughts, and feelings. You honestly describe what you observe, like maybe admitting to yourself that you let impatience totally guide your tone in that afternoon meeting. And finally, you respond by committing to purposeful change, maybe making a mental note to apologize tomorrow morning to the person you were short with. It's a structured, manageable way to practice self-reflection and continuous growth every single day.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, viewing the 12 steps not as some rigid program, but as a really dynamic daily toolkit for navigating your own hero's journey. I wanted to leave you with this final vital question. What is one area of unmanageability in your life today, right now, and what is going to be your very first step to address it? You've got the tools, you have the roadmap. The journey is yours to begin. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.